On today's episode of the Rice Crypto Show, we enter the esoteric world of crypto. I am joined by returning guest and fellow content creator, Waters Above. I will include a link down below in the video description and above for his first appearance, and I definitely encourage you to check that one out. Today, we're going to be diving into the cryptocurrency markets, how lunar and solar phases affect them, and then we discuss the FTX scandal. Before we get into it, make sure you visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain content. You will also find links to all of my various channels as well as my social media. Make sure you're following both of my YouTube channels, Rice TVX as well as Rice Against the Grain. And due to censorship, make sure you follow me on other alternative platforms such as Rumble and Odyssey, where I do post up exclusive content. If you want to support Rice TVX, be sure to check out and join my Patreon channel, where you will get early access to my videos with no ads, unedited. You will also get exclusive content and more. Get your free half ounce of silver. Take full advantage of my partnership with Money Metals Exchange in 5 easy steps. 1. Visit moneymetals.com. 2. Be a first-time buyer. 3. Purchase a minimum of $100. 4. Use the promo code RICE. 5. Get a free half ounce of silver, and it's an additional way to support the channel. I will include links in the video description for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything shared on today's video. Okay, joining me on today's show is a returning guest. I am joined by Waters Above. I will include a link down below for his first appearance. I released that video about a month ago. It is called The Esoteric World of Crypto. Be sure to check that one out if you have not. And definitely, if you are not subscribed to Waters Above's YouTube channel, make sure you check out his channel. It's an awesome channel. He combines technical analysis with gematria, numerology, and astrology. Waters, welcome back to the show, my friend. How's it going?
So good. Thank you so much for having me back on. I'm excited to be with you again. Our first connection was awesome. It was really just an amazing collaboration. So I appreciate you having me back on.
Likewise, man. Likewise. And we even had like a really good conversation before we started recording. I mean, I'm really enjoying our conversations, and I look forward to what we're going to be talking about on today's video. So I'm going to share some links, and everything that we talk about I'll have down below. If you want, just for a moment, since I would love for you to offer, because I've had actually some feedback from various subscribers that have messaged me on social media or sent me emails. I don't know if they joined up your mastermind course or what they specifically joined up, but they were giving me some really good feedback about enjoying what they're learning from you. So from the astrological numerology and with the gematria being added in with the technical analysis, do you mind just kind of starting off with sharing what it is that you do over on your website, what you're offering there?
Yeah. Well, also shout out to anyone who has, invested in my art and moved forward with one of my courses, because that really means the world to me to have that support. But yeah, I kind of created my own system where I do technical analysis, but I do it from a very, I guess a different way that most people are doing it, because I've decided to go with Wyckoff method from Richard Wyckoff, and looking at it from a horizontal trading level kind of vibe. And I'm seeing a lot of people in the cryptocurrency market play with all these patterns and all of these, like drawn trend lines and all that. And it was interesting to me to watch. And I felt like very few people were actually learning the basics. So for me, I decided to deliver a system that went back to the basics and kind of added this new layer on it all with the esoteric delivery, and added gematria, which is an alphanumerical cipher of taking letters and putting them into a number sequence. And then this way I was able to take in the names of cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, etc., and figure out the price levels that we would actually be able to get with these projects. And then it was like an uncovering of a revealing of something that I've never seen anyone do before. And that's really what that utility is. So with the astrological, numerological, and gematria connection, we can combine that with the technical analysis, and we could have an esoteric and an exoteric way of perceiving this market. And ever since I've started this channel, month after month, we've watched some of these what seemed like crazy ideas come to reality. And one of the most recent events was just a couple days ago during the November 8th, November 9th, what I was calling the lunar eclipse. And that was an astrological event that played itself out exactly how we thought it would. And it was because of that deeper connection I was making with that.
And one thing I will let people know is, I definitely encourage people to check out our first conversation together, because you go really deep into what it is that you're teaching over on your website. And then I'll also highlight, I don't know how long this is going to be lasting, because the last time you came on the show, right when I was going to release the video, I had gotten a strike and was delayed on releasing the video, and you had offered a discount code for people. But it looks like right now you have 10% going on, 10% off going on for your website. How long will that be going on?
Yeah, so this is probably going to be going on for a little bit longer, but I will be doing something for Black Friday. So if anyone's interested in picking up one of my courses, Black Friday is an opportunity. I'm probably going to be starting that mid next week. And another thing is on my Patreon, anyone who becomes a Patreon supporter of mine gets the biggest discount available on my courses. And that is even more lucrative because you get access to my weekly podcast as well as my Discord community. And then I reveal whenever I'm buying or selling. So if you're interested in, kind of following along my investment plan, you get all of that. And that's only $10 a month. And then you unlock that big discount on the courses. That'll be even bigger than the discount for Black Friday. So regardless of any sales that I do, that's really the opportunity that because this way people are getting all this value, and the community of people we have is amazing. We have a community of people in our Discord that's just super open-minded to what's going on in the world, probably very similar to the people that you've brought together through your transmissions. And it's so important to be surrounded by people at this time that are looking at the world from a lens that is bigger than the aperture of of the narrative and the theatrics that most people are just eating up without any discernment. And that's one of the things that I think is special about what we have going on here. For instance, over the last week with all this chaos in the markets, my community wasn't sweating it at all because we've been prepared for this moment for 6 months now. I've been telling people very, very specifically the reason why we would get this correction in the market and all of what was going into this particular time frame. So the long and short of it is it's great to be able to have access to that for as one of the perks.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I appreciate you taking the time to explain that. And again, I definitely encourage people to make sure that they're checking out your YouTube channel, which we'll kind of get into some of your latest videos. We're recording this on the 15th of November. I will be releasing this the following day on the 16th, so it's not going to be too outdated. The first thing I kind of wanted to get from you and talk with you about, if you don't mind, Waters, is kind of getting your perspective on what's going on with the crypto markets kind of overall, because we're at a really pivotal point with everything that's occurred. We were talking before recording, since last Monday is when really a lot of the things started to unravel for the FTX Sam Bankman-Fried situation. And then we had midterm elections. We had CPI data come out last week. So it's a pretty interesting week. Was all this, in a sense, written in the stars from an astrological point of view?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to it. In the video that I just released today, I called it the FTX ritual. And it was because after this whole moment played itself through, I decided to do some decoding into it regarding the numbers. And there's stuff that I show you in that video that isn't even hidden. You could just look into, the amount percentage drop that we saw with FTT, the FTX token. You can see the exact price that it bottomed at. the rebound price on the following day. I mean, this shit was so coded in, it's like obvious. And the thing that we've been talking about for a while is this lunar eclipse. So it was a total lunar eclipse. It was all around that election date and yada, yada, yada.
Was
Um,
that the Friday or Saturday before the election?
so that was on the 8th through, it was the 7th
Oh,
through
it
the
was the
8th.
night of it was the night before the election, the morning of the election.
Right.
Somewhere like
And the
3, I
8th
think
would
East
technically
Coast time, it
be,
would have been like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
yeah. So, well, it's
Yeah, I
just
wasn't even
amazing.
thinking about adding that into the equation of FTX and in midterm elections. Yeah, we had the lunar eclipse.
Yeah, so I think, well, we'll get into this idea a little bit later too about the idea of what the bottom means, because everyone that's an investor, they want to know, when is the market going to finish bottoming out, and when is it going to recover? When are we going to expect new all-time highs? But to return back to this idea of what's been happening locally, like what's been happening over the past month or so, um, I've just realized that the eclipses play a huge role in the behavior of these markets, specifically for cryptocurrency. Now, cryptocurrency is different than the traditional markets, of course, not only because of the fact that it's a nascent asset class, it's a new technology, but it also trades 24/7, 365. There's no breaks. So it has all that extra time, 33% more of the time of the year that it gets to, make these moves. So regardless if the eclipse is on a Saturday or on a Tuesday, like, it's going to affect these crypto markets, whilst it might not necessarily affect the regular market, the traditional markets as much. And when I talk about the traditional markets, of course, I'm talking about the indices and the we could even consider precious metals as part of that, and the forex market. But getting back on track, the thing that we were prepared for was a bearish energy in this market around this time, because it was a lunar eclipse, which happens on a full moon. And I've been teaching people in my work that we get all of our cycle bottoms on full moons and we get all of our cycle tops on new moons. So if you look at any time Bitcoin has hit an all-time high, it is on a new moon, always.
Is it
And
100% accuracy with that?
it's 100% accuracy within a 5-day window. And if we're talking about the exact all time high, it's within a 3-day window, in some instances, the exact date. But what we see on eclipses is an insane amount of accuracy of big volatile moves in the market. Like, we're talking about, for crypto, moves that are double to triple the size of what we would call a big move in the traditional markets. Like, we're seeing these 20% single day corrections, 30% on altcoins, 40% on altcoins. Or for instance, this is what gets really what allows the enlightenment of what's happening here, is we see coins have huge crashes like we saw with FTT. So let's rewind back to the last lunar eclipse we had in May of this year. What happened to the crypto market? Terra Luna literally dropped to zero. It went from $119, which is 9/11 in reverse. It went from $119 all the way down to fractions of a penny. Of course, it didn't fully go to zero, because they just kept minting more coins, and it was just all, kind of funny money and moves that they were doing with the blockchain itself. But then we fast forward to this recent lunar eclipse, and we watch pretty much the same thing happen with FTT, where it loses 99% of its value within 48 hours.
So the Terra Luna situation happened in the last lunar eclipse,
Correct.
and a lunar eclipse can only take place with an eclipse at a full moon.
Well, yeah, that's technically the solar eclipses are happening on the. So I don't want to get too confusing here. I don't think that point is as
Yeah,
important.
it's
It's more
yeah,
of a.
yeah. It's crazy though to think about what you said though with like how the new moons have upward action, and you're saying all-time highs were within a 3-day window of a new moon.
Yeah, well, when we're talking about cryptocurrency, yes.
Okay. That's fascinating to think about how much of an effect the moon would have on, I guess, our human psychology and behavior when it comes to cryptocurrency, especially when you think about how the moon affects other parts of the world, like
Yeah.
the
So
ocean,
exactly.
animals. It's like where
Yep.
does cryptocurrency fit into that equation?
Well, you got to think, like, with my work specifically, we talk a lot about the mythologies, and we talk about just energy and frequency and behavior. And this market if we want to consider that humans are moving this market, because humans have to buy and sell, like, of course there's bots, there's algorithms that are trading in the background, but if we all want to believe that humans are buying and someone else is selling to that buyer, then of course it's going to be influenced by some of this bigger stuff, like what you just said before. Also, you ask anyone who works in a jail, like a parole officer, you see fights break out on full moons. If you know somebody who works at the emergency room, you'll hear about the most people coming in from accidents on that day. So this is pretty common stuff, right? Like, we all know that there's something going on here with the lunar cycle. Many of you have heard about Mercury stationed in retrograde or Mercury retrograde. Anyone who's into astrology knows that there's something going on there. People who want to get into it deeper can. I've just decided to go the simple route and tell people about the full moon, the new moon, and the eclipses, which you don't need to be a rocket scientist. You could just go on YouTube, on Google, and you could type in full moon calendar or moon phases for the year. It'll give you all of the new moons, all the full moons, and then you could figure out the eclipses. But to get back to what I was talking about with the eclipses this year, on May 15th, May 16th, we had a total lunar eclipse, and Terra Luna literally dropped all the way down to fractions of a penny,
Same
starting
day?
starting on the 10th, and then it bottomed out on the 13th within 48 hours of the eclipse. But how scary it is that it was a lunar eclipse and Terra Luna did this move. It's even deeper than what some people might think. And if you
Yeah,
go watch my video that I shared today about FTT, it'll reveal a lot. So you said you're coming out with this in a day or so, and
tomorrow.
I do recommend people go back and watch my last video, because it's going to show you how even the guy Sam Bankman-Fried is part of this code too. Whether there's a humans organizing this, whether there's some nefarious team of people, I show you there's something going on here with this code that is borderline unbelievable, that humans could come in and make this sort of precision. But I am also open-minded to everything else that's happening in the conversation. I know you and I were talking behind the scenes a little bit about that, and we'll let the conversation unfold from there.
Yeah, no, I think we got a lot to kind of scope over with the FTX situation. And before we get into it, I mean, the one thing I do want to add that I'm finding very fascinating is you're saying there's a connection with SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, and Terra Luna situation happened during a total lunar eclipse situation, and the FTX debacle happened on. Is it considered a total lunar eclipse as well that took place?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep, we
so
had a total lunar eclipse on the
which
7th or
yeah,
8th
you
of November.
and there's a lot of speculation, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more evidence and more things unraveling showing that Sam Bankman-Fried, along with FTX and possibly Alameda Research, may have been responsible for what took place with Terra Luna. Essentially, I can't confirm 100% that that's the fact, but based off what you said, when we get into this discussion here in just a minute or a few minutes, I'm definitely intrigued. What I want to kind of, if you don't mind, kind of focus on before we get into like the FTX related stuff, and I don't want to take too much away from your video because I want to watch the video because I haven't watched it, and I definitely encourage others to watch it. But the markets, what are you seeing happening on a short term
Mm.
and long term basis? Like from an astrological, numerological, and gematria point of view, with your technical analysis, is there a time frame that you're seeing a bottom for the
Mhm.
market, and is there a time frame that you're seeing for a reversal in trend and going towards a bull market?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you reminded me of that, because I know I left off my last statement that I made with that concept. And yes, so first thing to lay out is that crypto behaves much more volatile than the traditional markets. So crypto will be isolated from the traditional markets, and that started around Rosh Hashanah. That was the recent Hebrew New Year, and that again is very important to start learning about, because there's multiple calendars at play that are manipulating and moving these markets accordingly. And the crypto market specifically is in its process of actually decoupling from the traditional markets, and the speed of which it makes these moves that I'm about to reveal will happen faster for crypto than it would for the traditional market. So when I speak on the bottom and when to expect a bottom, I'm talking from crypto. I'm not talking from the traditional markets, okay? So with cryptocurrency, I do see opportunity for the full moon of December and the full moon of January. Now, we typically see an end of year sell off regardless because big institutional investors or just people tend to do this, like, we could call it tax loss harvesting, some sort of end of year profit taking that shuffles you into the new year. And how perfect is it that the full moon is going to be on January 6th, right at the beginning of the new year? And that would be a perfect opportunity. Like I told you moments ago, we typically have a bearish energy in the markets around full moons. Now, what we're seeing with crypto is it's falling. It's like a falling knife. There's been no sign of a bottom in place because this event just happened quite recently, and we're seeing some strength in isolated projects, but overall Bitcoin making a new leg lower, plus what happened with FTT, plus what we're seeing with a lot of, like, even the ISO 222 tokens, they've taken another leg lower. We're seeing things like Theta, VeChain, all that kind of stuff take another leg lower. ETH is looking pretty damn good right now. But when you look at this market, it's in its process of finding a low, like finding a new low. And if I had to give a date or a range of dates, it would be pretty much everything from this interview that we're having now up until January full moon, which is around January 6th. Now I see by the January new moon, which will be later in the month, and we could just call it February. By February, I believe we will be in recovery for the crypto market. Now, when I say recovery, I'm not talking about we're going to be seeing new all-time highs or price discovery. I'm just saying we'll see structural recovery. That means that we'll be seeing higher lows. So when you think of it, it'll be a trend reversal where we can expect the lower lows to happen everything from pretty much this lunar eclipse a couple days ago through January full moon. And then we will start to see after the January new moon recovery of structure. So higher lows, and this will be starting with Bitcoin, then everything will rebalance from there. Now, when I see actually a positive time for the crypto market, like a time to get kind of excited, and for my community, we're probably going to be de-risking, not holding for this idea of a new bull run, but a time to expect some bullish recovery, bullish energy in the market would actually be the next eclipses, which are going to be showing up in April, May of 2023. So I am using the eclipses as like big overall pivot points, if you want to consider it that way.
Are these specifically lunar eclipses that you're talking about, or a combination?
So the next one that we're looking for is April 20th, which is a total solar eclipse. That one is going to be a new moon, so that again bullish. And I think that if we want to go even deeper and more esoteric, the next birthday of Satoshi Nakamoto is going to play a huge role in how this market behaves leading into April. So Satoshi Nakamoto, of course, is a fake entity. You all probably know that by now, but I have discovered that this individual's birthday has matched with a lot of moves that we've seen in this market. And when I've done decodes on the price action, it's just blown me away. And I made a call 3 months before Satoshi's 47th birthday that Bitcoin would hit 47K on his 47th birthday, and it happened. So, I mean, I'm not here to tell people to believe me, just go back and watch the stuff, and you could basically see how I've used this system. And it was amazing because it came up to 47K on that day, and then it rolled over. And then Bitcoin started breaking down to some new lows in the structure. Anywho,
That's pretty wild.
Satoshi Nakamoto's birthday is the 5th of April, and the next solar eclipse is going to be on the 20th of April. Coincidentally, the 420 date.
Where do you get April 5th though? I don't know that I'm familiar with that. Was
Yeah,
there something on?
you could just simply go to like Wikipedia, type in Satoshi Nakamoto, and you'll see that the birthday is April 5th, 1975. Again, this is a fake person, but I'm
I
considering.
didn't know Wikipedia gave a date though. I've never heard a date. That's why it kind of threw me off.
Yeah, totally. So just go check out the Wikipedia page, and you'll be able to see everything that's going on there. They break down the white paper, some of the big key dates for Bitcoin, like 2007 into 2008 with August 18th. That's an important date. January 9th was the day of like releasing the Bitcoin software. There's like all these really amazing dates. And me as a decoder, I love seeing this stuff because it allows me to connect a lot of dots. But April 5th will be Satoshi turning 48 years old. And with my work, we've been talking a lot about the year of the Shemitah and how that is a 7-year cycle. I think we might have talked about it on on our first interview that we did, but we have
We
a
did.
very special 7-year cycle that we're in right now. Okay. We are in the Jubilee. So after 7 cycles of 7 years, we have 49 years. And on the 50th year is Jubilee. But let's just say that the people who are running this show, the people who run the world, they're not using Jubilee the way that it was spoken about biblically. They're using it in a way to kind of restructure global economics and restructure global legislature. Like pretty much all the big changes that you see in our world are pivots on a 50-year cycle. So a good example was 50 years ago from now was during the Nixon administration. And you know what happened there. We
Yeah.
saw what happened with the gold standard and all of that shit. And,
Inflation.
petrodollar inflation, 1973 to 1975 recession. So I am, as a decoder, I've been revealing that I see a mirror reflection of the 1970s basically happening today. We are reliving that, and it's like predictive programming, or like a cyclical kind of experience. And this is an interesting thing to be aware of, because now you get kind of like a cheat code into what's to come in the future. So I see between now and 2025 to be a time to kind of get your shit together in life, regarding your finances and where you see yourself. And some of these big like changes are going to happen in the world, and you don't want to be the one that's, on the wrong side of this. And I think 2020 was a good example of just how instant everything could shift right beneath your feet.
Yeah, no, 2020 was definitely unexpected for the majority.
Yeah. And this is why I'm working really hard to get people to become illuminated to the possibilities of next April, okay? The next eclipse that we have, the solar eclipse. Because, and by the way,
On
on my,
420 as well. That's
yeah,
nice.
yeah, it's going to be a really interesting time, because we tend to see recovery for crypto in these phases. And what I mean by phases is it's a difference between a solar phase and a lunar phase. And currently we're in a lunar phase, and Bitcoin is actually like the sun. It's like the solar energy of the entire crypto market, if you wanted to like create this picture in your head.
Okay.
So when we have these eclipses, what's happening with the sun, right? We're getting a blocking out of energy. And when we have the solar phase, we're seeing Bitcoin is always in its bull runs. And we're not going to re enter a solar phase until April 20th. So between April 20th and I think it's May 5th, we're going to be in our transition back into a solar phase. And that solar phase is going to last for a couple of years. But this will not instantly affect the traditional markets. I'm speaking on crypto. And I want to be very specific about this, because sometimes people's like, when they're listening to my work, I know they're hearing a lot of information for the first, like new information for the first time. And I've been just working on being as clear as I can, because some people come to my work for stocks and decoding, like wanting to learn how to use gematria, numerology, astrology for their stock positions. And some people want it for crypto. Now,
Yeah.
I'll say this, and this could answer perhaps some people's questions, is when is the stock market going to bottom out? That could take up until September through November of 2023. So this is kind of a warning to people. Like, if you think the fucking stock market is bottomed out now, I wouldn't get too ahead of yourself. Okay. Like, just relax, let this market kind of settle itself down. But I think crypto is going to bottom very soon, within now to January, and it could take up until September. And when I mean bottom, that doesn't necessarily mean the lowest price available. Okay. The lowest price that happens is on an individual level. And this is what makes the gematria aspect of my work so profound. because you can see Amazon stock hit an absolute low on a different date than you'll see Metaverse. You'll also see the prices correlated with it be different as well. You know, you could see the percentage moves that are correlated be different as well. You can see that the dot-com bubble crash was a lot different for the Nasdaq than it was for the S&P 500. You know what I mean? So like this is where gematria is like a game changer for people. And you brought it up before in the beginning of this. I actually teach how to use the gematria as like an application to everything in the crypto mastermind course. So when people go on my website, watersabove.com, it's the first course that shows up. And there you'll also see my exit strategy blueprint is in that course for free. And in my entire exit strategy blueprint, I'm showing you literally how to use gematria plus TA to be able to determine some of these prices. It's pretty
I'm showing your
mind-blowing stuff,
website so
dude.
people can see it.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing stuff because even to this day, I continue to be like, like, wow, how is that possible that we're getting this kind of precision, but it just is what it is. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to have awareness of at this time.
So based off what you said, you're saying you see and I want to make sure I understand this correctly, an actual like a price bottom for crypto, Bitcoin between now and end of January. Is that kind of
That
what
is
you were?
when we should have clarity of the bottom. So
Okay,
we could have seen the absolute lowest price a couple days ago, for sure. We could have seen the lowest price for Bitcoin on the 9th, and we might see the lowest price for XRP in 2 weeks. And then we might see the lowest price for Dogecoin in 3 weeks. You know what I mean? It's not 100%.
right. No, I know
This
it's
is
not
why
a hundred.
when I
I'm just
tell
trying to get some
people
generalizations.
for sure. So my generalization is that between now and the new moon of January, which is sometime into later January, that is when we'll be able to have clarity of the bottom. And the bottom is not the lowest price. I really want to hammer that in for people like me being a professional technical analyst. We never look at the bottom as the absolute low. We look at the bottom as a phase. It's a phase of when the structure has continued to okay, it's when the structure pivots. So it's the moment of when the downtrend shifts to an uptrend. When you go from having lower highs and lower lows to a shift, and then you start having higher lows, higher highs. That's what the bottom is. And that phase, by the way, can take 7 years for an indice. It could take 6 years for the Forex market. It could take 2 years for crypto. So it's not like some like set in stone time frame. Okay.
Right.
What I've done with my work is I've just gotten pretty damn close at being able to identify all of this, but still, just for the people that want to have clear and concise answers and perhaps some general guidance, I would just look till the month of January as more opportunity for the crypto market. And if you're somebody who doesn't like Bitcoin and you want to build a position in Ether, Binance token, then this is going to be very important for you to pay attention to because a lot of people, when we have the initial move to the downside, they think that they're a genius for buying on the first day of the drop. But then 2, 3 weeks later, we just enter this arduous downtrend that continues to a new lower low. And then they're sitting there quiet. And it's like, see, like the reason the market maker has a huge drop initially is to just liquidate longs, right? They want to liquidate the long trades. Then they shoot you up really quickly because they want to catch the traders that are doing they're trying to make up for their losses, right? They're
Short
trying to like
the people who short the markets too.
exactly, they're catching the bear traps. And then after they catch all the bear traps, they're going to catch you another way on this slow, boring phase. So they like to go violent, quick, exciting to the downside. Then they go violent, quick, exciting to the upside, like a zigzag. And then they just arduous, slow bleed out. Then they break you on the lows again. They get you frustrated. And then you have your nice recovery. It works like if anyone studies Elliott wave theory, I think they would have a lot of, what I just explained might make a lot of sense to them.
Okay. And really what I encourage people, the best strategy for accumulation is using a dollar cost average strategy. And I definitely, if you're not familiar with what that is, go on Investopedia, look it up. You can go on my channel, search for dollar cost average strategy. I've made videos talking about it. The other thing I want to mention is if we're in a
I agree, by
tradition,
the way.
thank you. If
Words
we're
of
in a
wisdom.
Thank you, thank you. If we're in a 4-year cycle, if we're in a traditional 4-year cycle like we've been, as far as Bitcoin is considered, then we should see a lot of sideways action, bearish market throughout the majority of 2023, with the potentiality towards the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, seeing some growth in the market, seeing us kind of switch into a bull market. When you mentioned solar phases, does the solar phase equate to a bull market generally?
Correct. 100% of the time. That is 100% of the time I could say yes to that.
And you said the
And
solar
lunar
phase
phase
starts
is always
420 and
the
of
next one, correct.
2023. Okay, so then I
Yeah,
saw
they switch on the eclipses and they last in phases. So to give an idea, like it is actually, I guess, a coincidence sort of that we see the switch of lunar phase for the switch of lunar to solar phase on January of 2019. That was the bottom of the market. Like, so it's like at the pivot point is when shit gets really bloody if you're going from lunar to solar, but then it's the best buying opportunity. So it's just how you're looking at it, you know what I mean? So right now is the best buying opportunity. Like, I'm not saying this exact date. Again, return back to what you just said moments ago, words of wisdom, dollar cost average. But if you're dollar cost averaging Bitcoin at 16K and maybe it goes down to 14K in 3 weeks, and then maybe after that moment, it shoots right back up to 18K within 1 week. Who the fuck cares that? The difference is so minimal when you're
right.
looking at the long-term vision.
I
So
agree.
there's one other thing to add to this that might make a little bit more or add a little bit more value is the Bitcoin halving. So, of course, a lot of people are talking this 4-year cycle deal, and the Bitcoin halving always comes up into the conversation. The next Bitcoin halving is going to be between March and May of 2024. Now, the halving is never associated with a new all time high, it's associated with the last best buying opportunity. Okay. So the
Yep.
last great time to like really invest in Bitcoin or all altcoins for that matter, just all crypto, is the Bitcoin halving. If you can get in you could pretty much just wait. Now it's not going to be the best prices, but it's the last moments before we shift parabolic. So this is something that's made our work cut out for us. If you combine what we know about the Bitcoin halving with what I've been talking about with the solar and lunar phases, plus all this other esoteric stuff, like it gives us an ability to zoom out and like predict the future. And I don't really like using the word prediction. Like I've stepped away from being considered the predictions guy because it's just not a great energy for me. Like I think it eliminates self-reliance and it eliminates people creating developing skills. So for me, I'm all about skill building. I'm all about teaching somebody a skill so that they're not relying on me and they could actually walk away from my work and have something to apply on their own. Like to me, that's what makes the world better is self-reliance. So I've stepped away from being the prediction kind of guy to now here's the tools. Like I've just been the revealer of the tools and use them as you wish. But that halving is 500 days away, guys. So there's a lot that could happen between now and then.
Yeah, I pull it up, and I'll have this link down below for people that aren't able to find these kind of links and stuff for the Bitcoin halving clock. 493 days roughly, because there's an estimation. It kind of depends on the difficulty of the mining between now and then, and all
Yes.
that good stuff. But what I was noticing here when you were talking about the solar eclipse was there's another one coming up October the 14th, 2023. And this one we'll see in the United States because it looks like the one on April 20th, we will not. It looks like it's happening over top of Australia.
Yeah.
But this one on September or October the 14th, what significance does this play from your opinion? Is
So
this
I
because
think
this is this
that's when we're going to see the whole market becomes bearish again. But by then, October, remember I was telling you how the traditional markets, we can anticipate the traditional markets to bottom out sometime around September through November of 2023. It's around those eclipses. But see, the thing is Bitcoin and crypto, I'm anticipating it to have a relief rally into April eclipses, the April and May eclipses, and then it's going to fold over. That's why like I'm telling you right now, brother, like me and my community, we're going to be looking at that as a as a moment to like disengage from the media, to just turn all the noise off, because you want to be de-risking at that time. And if I can give an example of a similar moment, would be the summertime of 2019. If you look at Bitcoin in the summer of 2019, It just had a 6-month uptrend, which led to a lower high, but it was about a 300% gain. And then it rolled over, made lower lows for an additional 6 months after that. And then what else did it lead to? It led to the pandemic crash.
You mentioned I was trying to look up some information. A May eclipse because we have the April total solar eclipse. What's happening in
Yeah.
May?
There's a penumbral lunar eclipse, so partial type of, but that one I'm not paying as much attention to. I'm paying
Okay.
more attention to the April eclipse, and if I wanted to get even more like dialed in, I would say the focus is all on this solar eclipse of April 20th. Again, that's a new moon, and leading into that new moon, I see us having recovery. And recovery for the crypto market is very elusive. I know you, as a person who's been in crypto for a while, you kind of can vouch for what I'm saying. Like crypto can really move really quick.
Yeah.
And it could be violent, where you're like, what the hell? You wake up and one of your projects is up 115%. You're like, what the fuck is going on right now? So like that's one thing I could tell people is like it's better to be prepared when the market is bloody and boring, and that way when the market gets exciting, you're already in position.
Right. You definitely want to buy when there's blood on the streets, even if it's your own blood. It's kind of the saying that
Yeah, and
kind
dollar
of goes
cost
in
average when it's
traditional
boring.
investing. Yeah, because dollar cost average is a proven strategy. And if people want to check out a website, dcabtc.com, it's a calculator that will help you out with Bitcoin
Oh,
specifically.
that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
in my crypto mastermind course, it's designed for beginners, so it's definitely a big part of my investment thesis. I teach people I actually have a lesson called the designer portfolio, and we focus on a very small, like not over diversified, bit of coins to focus on, and then to design a dollar cost averaging strategy around it based on your finances. So, how do we take the amount of money you have and determine a conservative amount of money and then go from there? Because the number one thing that people fuck up on in markets, and I'm sure you could agree as well, is they go all in. And they go all in based off of an emotional response. And that's like the gambling casino, and you don't want to do that. And the issue with the people who are dollar cost averaging, I'm going to expose both people right now, is the dollar cost average person, they get too bored doing the right thing. See, when you create a plan, you need to trade your plan. Don't deviate off course. So if you're trying to get good at basketball and I tell you, and if I'm like a professional basketball player and I'm telling you, I need you to do 100 free throws every day, okay, for 3 months straight, you're going to get bored on the third day. Like on the third day, you're going to be fucking bored and you're not going to want to listen to me anymore. And then you're going to start doing all this other weird stuff. And that's the same poison that happens to the people who do dollar cost averaging. They get bored putting in the right amount of money at the right time. And then they have this 1 week where they're like, fuck it, I'll just, and they over invest, or they skip out a week and then they try to make up for it later. And then this really starts to distort the effectiveness of dollar cost averaging. Like it is so effective, and don't try to be smarter than it.
Well, here's the thing. So I got it pulled up on screen. I don't know if you could see it well, but this is the dollar cost averaging Bitcoin, dcabtc.com. And if you would have invested $15 every 2 weeks, and this is a way that you can kind of gauge because yeah, it is very boring. But if you can see the end result of your boring activity, I'm sure you'll be quite pleased. So if you were to invest $15 every 2 weeks, starting 3 years ago, and accumulating for 3 years, you would have invested a total of $1,185. It would be currently worth $2,625 with a percentage change of 121.57% increase, 121% increase by just steadily buying $15 worth of Bitcoin every 2 weeks, starting 3 years ago. Now, obviously, if you bought in at the all-time high, you might be down, or your percentage change may not be great. So we can go, for example, a year. And yeah, we would actually be down $15 if we would have started buying in at an
4%.
all-time high. We would have been down 3.5. But this is a very rare thing to see. And it's only if you're the person who gets the FOMO, the fear of missing out on an all-time high, and you're
Yeah.
the exit liquidity. So it's a great strategy. And I definitely encourage people to check out the site.
Yeah, no, that's great. Like, but the thing is like everyone, it's not that people need something new. People need to be reminded. So it's about being disciplined, and that's what makes big changes life for your lifestyle, and dollar cost averaging and learning how to effectively invest and be a sophisticated investor. That's what's going to create, that difference between you and the 95%, because anyone who studies the success of investors, it's like a 90% failure rate. Whether that's crypto, whether you're into a really niche thing like NFTs, I don't care what you're into. It's 90+% people fail at it. And it's because their lack of discipline. And the second thing is their lack of wanting to become self-reliant, and that's all kind of part of discipline anyways. So it's important that people use this time right now more than any time to get focused, because you're at a very volatile market that's to the downside. And the stock market hasn't even fully rolled over yet. You know what I'm saying? Like if you study the 2000 crash of the dot-com bubble, you study the housing market crisis, you study, I mean, any big crashes that have happened in our economy, the 86 moment, the Black Monday. I mean, you just keep going down the line, which by
Oh,
the way, that 86 moment was an eclipse too. That was a huge crash on an eclipse. So, but anyways, getting back on track, I think it's important that people realize that, you know, this is an opportunity right now, and it's an opportunity to learn, and don't squander that opportunity just playing the waiting game on your knowledge. It's okay to wait on putting money in the market, of course, if you're not ready with the fund, if you haven't built the fundamentals yet. But I just worry about people sometimes with their emotional lack of discipline. And if we study sentiment cycles, we see the correlation there between bull run tops and when most retail investors pile in. Like you said, with the FOMO,
right.
we see big catastrophic drops to the downside. Even during the March crash that happened in 2020, we saw all the panic selling. So don't be that person, and if you are through a moment like that, even if you are down in your portfolio, you still have your coins, you still have your well, anyways,
Your
that's
bags. You still got your
one.
bags you can hold on till a
Yeah,
price happens to swing back in your direction.
one last segue to that is take advantage of using your cold storage hardware wallet right now. Like, like exchanges are getting really awkward. We're seeing these leverage platforms getting weird. So buy
Not your
your
keys, not
ledger.
your crypto.
Yeah, but make sure you buy your ledger or your, whatever thing you're interested in, whatever hardware wallet you recommend, your decent wallet, or make sure you buy it directly from the official website, guys. Like I've
Yes.
already had people who've contacted me who, got consultation calls and they paid me for calls, and they've brought up how they've been they got a ledger off of Amazon.com, or they got a ledger off of Best Buy. If you're not in America, maybe you don't know this, but they're buying these hardware wallets from third parties, and it's just bullshit. It's
Well,
a scam.
they could be putting in like malware,
Correct.
anything like, and then resealing it. You don't know what's happening. So, definitely buy directly from a manufacturer. And I'm going to be doing some videos talking about different wallets that people can use. But for people who don't have the funds, or don't have necessarily a lot of crypto, but you want to have control of your stuff, something that I recommend, I call it a poor man's hardware wallet, is basically taking a phone, that a burner phone, a phone that you don't use anymore, that doesn't have a SIM card, that will connect to the internet. Download something like the Monarch wallet. That's a wallet you'll have possession of your private keys to. They're a sponsor of the channel, or whatever wallet that you desire, as long as you have possession and control of your private keys. Write down your 12 to 24 recovery phrase. And then once you get your crypto in that wallet, you simply turn your internet off and you turn a device off, and you have storage for your cryptocurrency. So that's a really good way without having to purchase something. But I definitely encourage you that if you're going to be investing a lot of your money into something like cryptocurrency, you want to invest in something like a Ledger, a Trezor, an Arculus. There's different hardware wallets, different cold storage wallets, and I'll talk more about those.
Yeah.
The,
And they're all pretty decent. Just make sure the big important thing is don't try saving $20 to buy it off of Amazon. That was my point,
right.
because that's what they're going to do. They're going to sell them for like $15 less. You're going to that's how you shop. You always buy the discount. And that discount of $15 can cost you your whole life savings in your
It
crypto
can.
portfolio. So don't get finessed in that.
I mean, think about it. If you're being your own bank and you don't have a bank holding your crypto, you're going to want to have as good of security as you can possibly get. So saving a little bit of money is definitely not the route to go. Before we get into the FTX stuff, I wanted to ask you about the solar phases. How long do these phases generally last?
So I don't know how consistent they are because it's all natural. Like it's something astrological, of course, but the phase of the last solar cycle, for instance, was from January 2019 over to May of 2021. So that was about 840 days, which is about 2.5 years, almost 3 years.
Okay.
And then this current lunar phase that we were in was within May 2021 over to November 2022. So that's about 530 days, a little bit more than 1 year. The next solar phase, to give you guys all an idea, um, it's kicking in technically from April 20th, like I told you moments ago, over to I don't even know. This is like off the chart. 2025, sometime in 2025,
That's what I was thinking.
end of the year pretty much. And we saw that the crypto market actually topped out in December 2017, just shy of the switch over into the lunar phase. And then if we look at the top of the market in crypto, remember back in April of 2021 where we had like what was called an alt season?
Yeah.
Bitcoin broke out to like 60K for the first time and then it rolled over
That's
and
when
then
we had our first top.
right. And it's weird because Bitcoin went on to make like another all-time high
It went
in
from
November.
64 in the April, May timeframe, I believe, if I'm
Right.
not mistaken, and then 69 in the November timeframe.
Yeah, yeah. So remember when the market rolled over in May of 2021? Like it rolled over at a huge liquidity event to end the alt season effectively. Well, that was just like literally a month before Bitcoin hit its all-time high. And Bitcoin was trading at that high from February 2021 all the way until it rolled over. Like super long time, Bitcoin was just trying to trade around 60K. And what created that event, that rollover event, like we've been talking about since the beginning of this podcast, was an eclipse. The market literally eclipsed all that the entire market. Actually, it wasn't even just cryptocurrency, it was also the traditional markets. So
That's crazy.
that's a switch over from a solar into a lunar cycle. And I'm just learning a lot about this over the past 4 or 5 months because of what happened to Terra Luna. Ever since I watched Luna hit a new all-time high on December of 2021, right before the end of the year. Remember, Terra Luna went on to a new all-time high while every other cryptocurrency was having a correction. It made no sense. It was like, why is Luna doing so well right now and everything else is having a correction? And then we watched Terra Luna just wipe out to zero on the following lunar eclipse. And I said to myself, okay, there's something to these eclipses, and it really, really fascinated me, and I put in the work, and that's why we were able to determine this recent correction. So
Well,
thank you, Terra Luna.
it's interesting I mean, all of it is just very fascinating just to think about. And I definitely want to have, more conversations kind of digging into the effects of how the moon, the sun, these phases affect things. But I want to be respectful of your time, my time, because I do have a live stream I got to do in 45 minutes and roughly about 20 minutes that I can devote to talking about this FTX thing.
Yeah,
You
bro.
kind
Yeah,
of
we're good. Got about
you kind of
15 minutes or so.
you kind of touched on it a little bit, but from your perspective, without deep diving into specifics of what was going on, what were you seeing from your research that uses gematria, uses numerology and astrology? What were you seeing, and how do you see Sam Bankman-Fried being connected to the Terra Luna stuff? I know I'm
Yeah. Well, that
bombarding you with a
was
bunch of
something you
questions,
brought
but
to my attention. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. But one of the things that I exposed in my last podcast that I did over on Patreon was just these individuals that they give you guys are like throwaway sock puppets. Okay, they are a sacrifice. All right, you can look at this guy like a Bernie Madoff. He's just a dude, and he's done. His public image is done. He's never going to recover from this in the public eye, and this was all probably just him being used as a scapegoat for the whole situation. So I'm sure he's gonna be going to trial and there'll probably be some shit like that. Although you told me that it hasn't been set up just yet. But I think eventually he's gonna have to deal with this on a deeper level of scrutiny. But for the meantime, it was more of just, in my opinion, a way of getting a problem out to everyone in the crypto community because they knew that everyone was going to cover this. That's why when I covered it in my last video, I did it in a very specific way. I did it in a way that wasn't giving this guy any drama or smoke. It's just to reveal the code. So, to
Right.
specifically answer your question, this guy to me is a nobody. He's just being used like all of these elites are. And it's to bring in cryptocurrency regulation. They sacrificed him so that they could have something to point to, so that this way they can say, okay, look at all the flaws in this system, look at how you guys are treating this like a crypto casino, you're treating it, and look at how you retail investors keep getting wrecked time. It's like, look at it from DC's perspective, the people over in Washington DC, how many events do they have now in their favor that they can put up on the drawing board to show that cryptocurrency is bullshit? They can do it now in so many ways. They can disregard all the positive things in it. They could disregard all the bull markets and all the profit and ROI, and they can just point to things like Terra Luna, or they could point to things like big scams that happen where a mining facility just has an issue, or they could point to what happened with this guy with FTT.
Yeah, but
They
let
could
me
continue to point. Yep.
I'm gonna pause you for a second because when you said the SBF thing, I'm not quite, and I said it before we started recording. Let's see how our I may have said it while we're recording. Let's see how our legal system works,
Yeah.
because I think unraveling this thing and bringing charges against this guy, unless he's just going to 100% take the fall, is
Yeah.
going to open up a can of worms that DC doesn't want opened up, because there's a lot of tieback right now, and I don't think there's concrete evidence, like to say 100% for sure, but it
Mhm.
looks as if between the Democratic Party, Ukraine, and FTX, there was a deal set up that was funneling money. FTX had a deal set up with Ukraine to help accept donations. That was public knowledge. But the funds getting funneled back through Biden's run for 2020 and as president, the amount of money, the fact that
Mhm.
Sam Bankman-Fried's mother has a super PAC, and apparently she formed a super PAC just a few weeks before FTX was officially launched. Uh, FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried have had regular dealings with the SEC and Gary Gensler. So if on paper this shit looked this bad, and Gensler was allowing for Sam Bankman-Fried to get all this influence and stuff to make crypto look bad, it's possibly gonna come back on the Democrats. It's possibly gonna come back on the SEC. I think Elizabeth Warren. I think her daughter is an intern at the um, SEC. Then you got to find that these are some of the details I was going to tell you about. Then you find that this lady, her name's Caroline Ellison. She was one of the CEOs of Alameda Research. She apparently had some sort of relations with Sam Bankman-Fried. Apparently, a bunch of people had some kind of polyamorous stuff going on. They're calling it a polycule. Um, Caroline Ellison is a math whiz, went to Stanford. Her father was the head of economics at MIT, the head of the economics department. He's a department head at MIT. Gary Gensler, in between being the CFTC head and the SEC chair, worked at MIT
Right.
for this guy, Glenn Ellison, whose daughter is the CEO of Alameda Research, who Gary Gensler has regular relations and dealings with Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX.
Yeah.
So I'm not really quite sure if they're going to make crypto look bad while they're making themselves look bad at the same time. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, here's the
It's
thing,
going to be
brother. I
interesting to watch.
I love how you just shared all of that, and this is kind of how I feel.
And
Everyone
that's
needs
just
to
part of
remember.
it. That's
Yeah,
just part of it.
that
It's
could be
still unraveling.
5%. Yeah, that could be 5%, right? Like we all know there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but I'm so glad you said what you said. And to build off of this friendly, exchange of concepts, is that not all people in government are long term. In my opinion, people like Gary Gensler and the whole move that was made with the SEC with the last moments into 2022, or yeah, that move with the Ripple settlement, and like, sorry, Ripple lawsuit, and the push of this settlement longer and longer and longer and longer, and everything that's going on over the past year or so with Terra Luna, with exchanges, with what we're seeing happen now with all the companies that are connected to SBF, which is going to continue to become public knowledge, day by day.
Yeah.
As this stuff unfolds, I don't necessarily believe that people like Gary Gensler were long-term employees anyways. I think he was a temporary, like, he's just a place marker between the crypto casino and the eventual regulations. And we
Well,
had a conversation.
you got to look at Gensler's past. Sorry. Gensler, I mentioned he was the head of the CFTC. There's a lot of speculation that him and JP Morgan and others were highly involved in keeping the silver and gold markets very manipulated. So he seems to be kind of a guy that the government brings in to do this kind of shit. So I don't. And maybe the SEC will be short lived, but I don't feel like his career in government capacities will be ending, or he's going to be getting a nice job in the private sector with one of these entities. I just
That
wanted
could
to
be
add
the,
that because Gensler is not. He's a I think for years he was overlooked. Bix Weir from Road to Ruta had just talked about this recently. He's been doing a lot of deep research when it comes to the SEC and the Federal Reserve. So, and he's big into the silver markets and a lot of the silver manipulation that's been taking place. And one of the things that he had mentioned that kind of fell through the cracks for him, but after seeing what's been occurring, it's Gary Gensler. So I think that's where I'm saying even at the Democratic Party, if they can't prove or there's no actual money laundering or funneling of money going around, we can show that the SEC is corrupt and we can show that Gary Gensler is corrupt. It's looking like that very much, especially when Gensler
right.
won't purposely give clarity on regulation.
Yeah. So
So it's
my big point on all of this is
sorry.
the elite who are running the show, whatever you want to call them, if you like to call them elite, they have aspects of this government that they know are problems, and they want to make it an even bigger problem so that it collapses and basically self-cannibalizes itself, so that they could bring in they could bring in more globalism, so they could bring in more socialism. Essentially, they have implanted stooges across this realm to be the leadership, people who barely have public speaking ability, people that look like literal jesters. They put them in place, in my opinion, the way that I see this world operating. It was a strategy to get people, the people who think this is democracy and they think they're actually voting and this, that, and the third. It's to show you the failure of government. When government fails, their big solution is globalism. And that was their ultimate agenda to begin with. They want the financial system to be dog shit. They want the cryptocurrency markets to be dog shit. They want to suppress precious metals. They want to do all this stuff. They want to take full breathing, organs of a part of government to fail. Like, they want the whole organ to go into failure, so that when they launched their new system, they had all the reasons, because it was a shit system. And this is me using air quotes, because the old system doesn't work anymore. And this has been a tactic, and I believe that was how it was designed. One last thing I'll say is, if people think that the government or the people who are leading charge in this world, if you don't think that they design things to fail, then you don't know about planned product obsolescence, which is a very eye-opening, illuminating idea. And a company that does this quite often is Apple, where they literally make products that are literally perfectly designed to eventually start breaking. Okay. And it is in alignment with their launch program of the next product. So I believe that once I became illuminated to this, I started to see how government works, how it was designed, and you study all the past presidents going back to like the creation of the Federal Reserve, and you'll see that this was designed very strategically. It's very sophisticated to have people not even see the blueprint of socialism get laid out under their feet. This is a strategy and it's done perfectly. And cryptocurrency and blockchain technology and the new quantum system that's to come is going to be one of those quote unquote solutions. And they're going to show you it with a smile on their face, just like they showed you with the World Economic Forum. You'll be happy and you'll own nothing. Okay. Now it's all code. It's a little bit deeper. There's some allegory there, but really they're not fucking lying to you. They're telling you the way it's going to be. You're going to be pushed into that realm, and you just need to be aware that it's because they're going to make the system look so bad. They're going to make it presented to you like it's a failure so that you vote in, and I'm using air quotes, you're going to think you're democratically bringing in the solution, but it's not going to be that way. It's always been that way though. This
Isn't
whole
that the
like
Hegelian
totalitarian.
dialectic?
Correct. It's like I think what's his name said it very. Damn, I forgot his name. But if you remember who said this, it's called the totalitarian tiptoe. It's like people don't even notice that it's all happening as it's happening. The past 2 years was a great example. You know, it was a way to push the QR codes. It was a way to push the idea that cash is dirty. It's a way to push having all of the tickets to concerts, all of the tickets for airplanes, all of that to just be turned digital. And this is where they push people into digital identity systems. And that is where blockchain will thrive. It's what it was designed for ultimately. Cryptocurrency was not designed for us to have a money transfer. It was designed for the elites to be able to store money in an easy, transferable way, so that they could launder money or wash money, as you another way of calling it, so they can move money around in a new way, and then they can store their real wealth in assets and property, etc., while they're slowly pushing people through hyperinflation out of owning assets and getting the newer generation excited about technology, virtual reality, augmented reality, AI in all forms, and basically accepting this new metaverse type reality where there is no human connection. It's just everyone's interacting on screens and everyone has an avatar that represents their self. Now, this is all part of the idea of showing a part of government that's a failure. So in my vision, they selected Joe Biden to be in this position because they knew he was a buffoon. They knew that he would take the liberal agenda and flip it on its head, because now if you're liberal and you follow those politics, the leader of your cult has dementia and can barely speak full sentences. So the leader of your cult looks like a moron, and that represents you. Now you look like a moron. So it's going to make you question your belief systems. This was all done by design. They did the same thing with people with the other side of things with Trump. They made anyone who liked the guy was just insert negative derogatory statement. This isn't my feeling, by the way. I don't really care about politics. I just know how the elite use politics to keep people divided.
No, you're 100% correct with everything you said. The only thing that I would add to the equation of what you said is cryptocurrency and blockchain technology are equally the problem and the solution. So, regardless of if Bitcoin and cryptocurrency was created to lead people into its cashless society, it's also a tool that has been given to us to help us to release ourselves from that very system.
A
So
million percent.
we can create our own cryptocurrencies. We can keep forking code. Developers and coders can, so I don't, that's the only thing I wanted to add, because I don't want people to take away that crypto is bad, because
No, yeah, I mean, you couldn't.
it's a
If you
tool.
look at,
It's
yeah,
simply a tool, and we can use it to free ourselves, or the governments and the banks can continue to use it to enslave us.
100%. It's like food, right? You could eat food to be alive and satiated and have some enjoyment in life, or you could keep eating it and eating it and eating it and not be able to walk up the stairs. So it's like anything, you go weaponize it against you. Just
Yeah,
don't turn anything into a weapon against you with gluttony. And I think that's what happens with people is, first and foremost, too many people
greed.
too many people were initially sold onto crypto through cryptocurrency influencers by it only being good, or by it only creating freedom, or by it only doing this. And they weren't talking about some of the concepts that we just shared in the last 10 minutes. So when I started to do that with the world, while also exposing the system to be able to hack how to invest in this market, this is where we could have the weapon. Instead of it's a weapon, now it's a tool. How do I actually use what I know, this knowledge, this wisdom about the markets, and my knowledge and wisdom about what's happening in geopolitical, the sphere of what's happening, and use this to our advantage? Because money is not evil, right? It's the addiction to the money, and having the money control you is where it starts to become a problem. And this is exactly why too many people are bad investors, because they get sold on this outcome based idea that if you invest in crypto, you're going to be a millionaire and you're going to have a Lambo and this, that, and the third. I remember a year ago, actually, this guy, Sam Fried, was being pumped around influencer channels, being called the most generous man in crypto. I
Not
remember
I.
videos come, not you,
Just I
but
have
I'm
to. I
just
know. I
saying.
just had to add in that I've been very vocal about not being a fan of Solana. I've stuck with that. I've never used FTX. Never promoted anything that he did. I just, for some reason, he just didn't gel well with me. The energy, I wasn't feeling it.
So that's another coin that I was very vocal about not wanting to pay any attention to. And anyone who followed my work over the past year, you can, oh man. I mean, I remember all eyes were on Solana, and I was telling my community, take your eyes off of the shiny object when it's shiny, because it's going to roll over. And when it rolls over, it's not going to be any different than all these other cryptos. It's going to lose 95% of its value from the top. And you're going to be one of those people that are thanking, me, because I'm not getting you all excited about something when it's overbought. But, anyways, coming back to this Sam dude, I just remember very vividly a year ago, just so many people coming out and talking about this guy being like Jesus Christ on earth, you know? And I'm like, I tell people, stop. People did the same thing in the XRP army community before Gary Gensler got brought into the government. They were just touting that this was such a good thing for crypto, the fact that we're going to have this man. And now I'm seeing the same people that used to call him a good thing are now calling him the parasite. So for everyone who's listening to my work, I don't want to speak for Rice, but watch who you believe in. Okay, resonate with things, stop believing in things, believe in yourself, and resonate with everything else. And this is where you can actually take away wisdom and you can leave the rest. You don't need to agree with everything, but you can walk away with value from everything. All right, even the homeless person you see on the side of the street has something profound to teach you. You just need to allow it. But this culture that has developed in crypto, where they've taken these people, these entities like CZ and whomever, they make these people into gods. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm always working on my message and with my community to just tell them to stop idolizing these beings, because they don't know you. When Joe Biden goes home at the end of the day, he's not thinking about you. He's not worried about your, you know, when Barack Obama lays down at night to read a book, he's not thinking about you. He doesn't even know if you voted for him. He does not give a shit. Do you think that Samuel Bankman-Fried cares about you losing your whole life savings? No, you're irrelevant to him. And I want people to remember that, because people get invested emotionally in these people. Like they
Right.
start becoming, and this is going to happen again in the next bull run. And I say that with air quotes. When we have a bullish market again, you're going to hear the same narrative recycle itself. Everyone who's quote unquote tied to something where they're making money, that person, that entity is going to be the good guy. And then when the market rolls over, it's going to work in the same way, the opposite direction. Now this person's a bad guy.
I would like to think that the people that are currently in the market won't think that way when we get into a bull market. It will be the new investors that come into crypto, and we'll continuously have this cycle of new investors who are inexperienced and don't understand how these exchanges work and things to that
Correct.
effect. So hopefully people that are in the space now are learning lessons. I mean, since I've been involved in since early 2017, I've learned an immense amount. So I
Oh
just
yeah, there
encourage
was
people.
way more money made in this bull market than there was in the last one. There was
Yeah,
way more people becoming prosperous from this recent bull run than there was from the last one. And this is important to remember because we are getting smarter as time goes on, but we are inundated with information. We're
yeah,
in the information age where there's too much of it and nobody knows where the truth is because they're like, I don't know, man, when crypto was back in 2017 or 2015, how many popular YouTubers were there? I could tell you whoever was the most popular one, he did not have a million subscribers.
no,
Now it's becoming a normal thing where we see these top information channels regarding finances, regarding crypto, regarding stocks. It's normal now for people to have 200,000, 500,000 subscribers. That's an immense amount of influence, brother. And with all that influence, if we're in a bull run, they can sway people and they don't even know they're doing it. It's unconscious. I'm not blaming the content creator, by the way. I'm just speaking on the cyclical nature of how it all
yeah,
works, and the algorithm feeds it accordingly. When people are happy, you're going to have more excitement. You're going to have more likes. You're going to have more views. When the market's in this energy, it's going to be in reverse. And it's sad because I am one of those people, and maybe you resonate with this, and we could kind of wrap it up. But for me, I'm always super interested in something that everyone is afraid of. Like I actually started learning about crypto really heavy when most people were calling it a scam, or most people were calling it a bad idea, or most people were saying this, that, and the third, all this negative stuff about it.
that's
That's
the
what
best
piqued
time to
my
do the
interest.
research. It's definitely
Correct.
the best time, because you don't have you have time to focus on things. You have time to really look into people and projects. And that would be the other thing that I would add to what you just said is definitely research people and projects, deep dive. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I think that if people would have done this on Sam Bankman-Fried a little bit earlier, or paid attention to some of the smaller voices trying to get this information out, you need to think for yourself because it may become a crime. You need to use critical thinking and you need to do your own research. You just take the information that people like me and Waters give you with a grain of rice in this particular. Take it with a grain of rice and do your own research, think for yourself, and take what information that you find valid. I think that's the best way that we can all move forward. And definitely when it comes to cryptocurrencies, it's a different animal compared to the traditional market. You want to be a big boy, big girl, put your big boy or big girl pants on, take your training wheel off your bike, and handle business. And that means that you have to be responsible for yourself and your actions. And when it comes to security, there are protocols that you need to know. And people like myself and Waters, we offer to try to help people out as much as we can. So, brother, I really appreciate your time. I definitely want to do this again sooner than later.
Yeah,
Um,
we should do a podcast moving forward called Take This with a Grain of Rice.
all things rice, man.
It's a little long of a title, but it's pretty funny.
Well, so is rice against the grain, but it just
Yeah, I
works,
love
man.
that.
So
I love
yeah.
that.
Um,
Yeah, brother, I
before we
appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to me.
Yeah, likewise, man, likewise. And I still need to get in touch with Donut and try to coordinate the three of us together for a conversation. I think people would enjoy that.
Yes, that'd be amazing. That'd be an amazing
Um,
live stream on his channel for sure.
100%. So I've got right now I got your website pulled up again. I will remind people that there is a 10% discount just off the top if you go to watersabove.com. And then if you want to get further discounts and you want to support what Waters is doing, you can check out his Patreon channel. Make sure that you're subscribed over on YouTube. And again, all this will be linked down below, including the moon phases, the information about the April
Uh,
20th
dope.
and October 14th total solar eclipse. And then I'll include also the Bitcoin halving calendar, countdown clock,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
the DCA.com. But do you have anything that you want to add before we wrap up?
No, man. I mean, I really appreciate you sharing my art, and definitely for anyone who's new to my work, check out my last video. That video is really revealing about some of the stuff you might not have heard about this guy Sam Bankman-Fried and about FTT token FTX. Definitely check that out. It's a longer video, but I I pour my heart and soul into these videos that I make. I try to give as much information as possible. It's all there for free. Check it out before signing up to anything like my courses or my Patreon, just so you could kind of feel it out, get a vibe for what I do.
Well, your short videos are your long videos are my short videos. So, I mean, this is a half-hour long video. I don't think this is too much time to invest to learn some information. I'm definitely going to be watching it, and I definitely encourage other people to watch it. And if I have any questions, man, based off this, since we've talked, I'll send you an email and kind of go
Yeah,
from
yeah, for
there.
sure. I mean, my video is structured in a way where I start out with the gematria and the decoding and kind of breaking down the numbers and explaining any nuggets of wisdom along the way. And then I'll move it over to the charts and I'll go into Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. Just those are like the top three that I tend to go over most. But then in my Patreon, I have a podcast that I do every week where I actually let my community vote on the altcoins that I look at. So then I'll cover an additional 5 altcoins every week and they rotate. So I've done about 80 red pill podcasts and covering 4 to 5 coins every single week. You can imagine how many projects I've actually, went over. And anyone who joins that membership, you have access to all of those podcasts off the gate. So, if you wanted to binge watch as many of them as possible, you'd have that access. And then our community is there on the Discord for people to ask questions. So it's a pretty dope setup that I have going on where I could use my YouTube videos every week. Again, it's free content. It's out there for everyone to see, where I could break down my strategy, but then I get to really dive deep into like a full market evaluation, a full market recap on my podcasts and a longer form video, and hit up some other altcoins. Even lately, I've been covering the DXY, the dollar index, as well as the Dow Jones, just to like spice it up a little bit with this energy that we've been getting in the market. So next week, I'm going to be dedicating a podcast to the ISO 222 tokens, the compliant list. So it's going to be, I'm just going to go over about 6 of those coins, 5 or 6 of those coins. And I did a part 1 to that back some months back. And remember, the whole like ISO thing was supposed to start taking off in November, which is right now. I don't know really how that's all launching and how that's all going down, but it's a big conversation in the cryptocurrency community. So I decided to dedicate a part 2 to that, and that'll be coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And before we wrap up with the ISO stuff, it's, to me, I think the coins that people are, I think it's all speculation. I don't think there's been anything officially released through ISO. ISO is like, there's a lot of different ISO numbers, and they have different purposes for, I guess, connecting up different systems. And I think the ISO 20022 is ultimately going to be like a bridge for all the CBDCs, something like the BRICS reserve currency, the IMF's SDR. It would just kind of like almost be like a way for everything to be able to transact through each other's mind. Yeah. So, I mean, I think I had saw something about an article saying that from someone else's research that XLM and XRP are the only 2 that would be ISO 20022 compliant. But I'm looking forward to your research, and then
Yeah, so there is a difference
let me know
between
where
the
you cite your resources from, like where you're getting the coins and stuff like that, because I'm curious
so that
about
was
that.
actually a discrepancy that what you brought up is so important, because I actually have noticed the same thing. There's a difference between being compliant and being like selected. Okay, like I could be compliant to be a political candidate. It doesn't mean I'm going to become your
Right,
congressman.
exactly.
So like there could be 1,000
And
cryptos that are
XRP
compliant.
is a partner of Ripple, is a partner of the World Economic Forum. So it makes sense that something like XRP, which is designed to replace the SWIFT system, would be in fact a
Correct.
compatible coin, and something that would be not only compliant, but actually
Yeah.
something that's listed. So that's where I'm
Something that's
skeptical.
utilized.
So let me
Right.
know how your research goes with that. I'm really
Yeah,
curious.
yeah. I mean, it's very limited in research. It's moreover to just deep dive into the compliant list that is popular and to kind of share my outlook and my investment thesis on them. And I agree with what you just said. And it's so important because a lot of these people, like in the XRP army and people that are all excited about these ISO tokens, they do fail to realize there's a difference between being selected as a utility within the global banking ecosystem and just being compliant. Like at the end of the day, there is a huge difference in being compliant, and even Bitcoin is essentially compliant under XBT as an ISO. ETH is compliant. So what makes them utilizable in the global financial ecosystem, though, is a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
And now that's to say that they're not going to go to zero or go away when this all launches. And I think that's where some of the conspiracy lies, is people are like, I'm going to invest in EOTA because that's definitely going to make it. And Bitcoin's going to go to zero because it's not ISO compliant. It's like, you got to understand that this is so like, you look
You
at
got to do your
institution.
research.
Yeah, you got to do your research, and you need to look. If you look at institutional investors, you see how much Bitcoin they have, and now let's compare it to how much EOTA they have, and then come back to me and tell me why the hell they would have none of the EOTA token, but they have all this Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? It's like, do you think they're stupid? Do you think they know something they don't know? They have lawyers. They have a team of lawyers that's bigger than your whole family. You know, they're
Yeah.
well prepared for all this shit. But I'm glad you brought that up, brother. And I'll let you go. It's been great chatting with you. I'm excited to connect for round 3.
Yeah, likewise, man. I'm just going to do the wrap up really quick, and if you can bear with me. So, again, I will have links down below for everything we talked about on today's show. Make sure you're checking out watersabove.com, subscribing to his YouTube channel, checking out his Patreon, as well as everything else that we talked about on today's show. Make sure you're subscribed here at Rice TVX and my new sister channel, Rice Against the Grain. And I'm going to leave you with this. I encourage you to be a blessing to others, treat people how you want to be treated, be the glitch you want to see in the matrix, the change you want to see in the world. Practice change. And until next time, much love.